Why traditional communication advice fails women like us. Why you don't need to communicate better, and other weaponized advice from therapy and Instagram influencers. And I was a part of this problem. Things that are keeping you stuck in your sexless marriage. If your relationship feels like a never ending conversation with no change, no lasting change, chances are you don't need to communicate better. You need an understanding of coercive control and power dynamics. Most high achieving women aren't bad at communication. They run companies, households. They are great at taking the emotional temperature of the room and understanding people's needs. But these traits, these super traits in their relationships, when we have to ask, to remind, when it's easier to just do it ourselves, to cry, to shut down, and we're in this cycle on repeat, what is going on? Are our standards too high? Are we too controlling? Are we too much? Are we too emotional? My client told me the other day, she said he's never overtly stated that she's too much or any of those things, but her needs are constantly minimized. I'm just coming off a masterclass I did for my 12-week group coaching program. Summer group starting June 25th, 5 spots left. And we dug into this and the shifts that my clients saw in their partners in the last 2 weeks after that masterclass. This is powerful. So listen up. The women I work with find themselves repeating, but never feeling fully met, wanting connection, getting caught in this over-communicating loop, which leaves everyone in the relationship feeling resentful. So in a mismatched libido relationship, in a sexless relationship, and sexless marriage means having sex 10 or less times per year. Okay, so if you're not having sex like at least once a month, you qualify as a sexless marriage. And I don't even like putting those hard limits on things because life, hormones, stages, stuff comes up. But I would consider a sexless marriage when both people don't feel fulfilled, when it's not pleasure centered, and it should flux. But my high drive, my high desire partners are looking to connect through sex because sometimes they're not connecting intimately and they feel like the mother or the CEO in all other areas doing the emotional labor. And the bedroom is where he's opening up a little. So she seeks that connection there because she's not getting it anywhere else. My low desire clients, they're looking to connect emotionally before they can open physically. And that's sort of normal feminine energy, which moves downward, head, heart, womb. We're going to go over the bullshit that you've taught that's been keeping you stuck and exhausted. I'm Dr. Jordan Wiggins, and welcome to the Pleasure Principles podcast, where high-achieving women ready to decode low libido, sexless marriages, and hidden power dynamics that are draining their desire. I'm a naturopathic doctor, author of The Pink Canary, and intimacy strategist for women who have it all except great sex. This is for successful women navigating emotional burnout, a low desire, a relationship that looks fine on the outside, but leaves her feeling unseen, untouched, and unsure why. In each episode, I'm blending clinical experience, lived experience as a survivor of intimate partner violence and sexual abuse, and having unfiltered conversations to reveal the real roots of intimacy struggles for high-achieving women, our negative pleasure beliefs, misdirected sex education, and relationships built on invisible power dynamics. I want to go over a quick list of what blocks intimacy-based communication. Number 1, nervous system dysregulation. A lack of safety, and this could be coming from us, but safety is the biggest break. High achieving women with super traits are over functioning. So we're taking on the emotional labor for both people. Oftentimes we're paired with an under functioner. Unconscious, invisible power dynamics. And these are not often malicious. Sometimes they're just patterns. Sometimes it's gender roles. No one's looking for this. And finally, a deep conditioning to perform to feel love, where we're constantly thinking and doing, and we're not in our bodies feeling. I hear this all the time from my clients for years. We try the I statements, the sandwich feedback, say it softer, wait until he's not so tired. Those are built on relationships where there is equal effort being put in. And that is not often the case for the women that I work with, the women that have super traits. And if you are new here and you're not sure what I am referring to, I have an episode specifically on this. It is Sandra Brown's research. Head to my show notes, listen to that episode. That's probably a good place for you to start. As superwomen, we have been taught to communicate more, when in reality, what most of us need to do is to communicate less. When you're told, oh, just talk to him, just ask, just share your desires. And this is bullshit that I would have said. Okay. And if you have a willing and capable man, it works. And it worked for some of my clients. But others were having to ask 30 different ways, wait until he wasn't grumpy or tired. Most of the communication strategies out there only work if there is equal effort and capacity in the relationship. And I want to repeat that. Most of the communication advice out there only works if the relationship is based on equality and two people putting in equal effort to fix it. I spent years and hundreds of thousands of dollars in therapy and coaching, working on my anxious attachment, my childhood trauma, my neurodiversity, his neurodiversity, until one therapist saw it. One therapist saw that I was the victim of covert abuse. Okay. And this might not be you, but I will say that because you're listening, you most likely have super traits. And when you have super traits, there are elements of coercive control in your relationship. And that means power dynamics, where one person has power over the other. And it can be as simple as gender roles, where there is the unspoken assumption, the contract that you've never signed, that you do the invisible labor for the household, that is your job, that you do the emotional labor for the household and the children, and that is your job. And that's like wearing a backpack. And at the beginning of the relationship, we just start adding weight to it. But it's an invisible backpack. So it's a weight that you are carrying around that no one sees. And then it's, why are you exhausted? Why are you grumpy? Why can't you just be happy? Well, because I'm lugging around an extra 100 pounds that I'm not getting acknowledged for. And a part of the reason why my clients are so susceptible to these coercive dynamics is because it appears that they have power on the outside, from the outside looking in. It appears that they have lots of power because they are educated. They make their own money. But no one sees what is going on behind closed doors, where we have given up our power, or it has been slowly eroded from us over time. And one of the ways that we do that is by us thinking that we have a communication problem. Communication does not equal connection. Communication does not equal connection. High achieving, super women, we like to do usually a lot of talking. We like to communicate. We're thinking, we're in our heads a lot. We do more thinking than actual feeling, which is a part of the problem. So I want to go a layer deeper. Talking about sex is necessary, but not sufficient. Talking about our feelings, what hurts us, how alone we feel, how frustrated we are that we need to ask 20 times in 10 different ways while blowing bubbles out of our asses and standing on our heads. How does that feel? when the reality is that we need to get super honest. We need to get honest with ourselves about what is and isn't working and own our portion of the problem here. Okay? You are not broken, but your body is reacting to being in an environment that isn't equitable, a relationship that is not pleasure centered. Okay, so then we have chronic shutdown, numbness, overthinking, resentment. And this isn't always because of your relationship. Sometimes it's unchecked super traits, unhealed super traits. And I created the pleasure path assessment to help you figure it out if this is you. Okay, which part is yours to own? And a portion of it is ours. And sometimes, because of our super traits, we're an overfunctioner and we're paired with an underfunctioner. And if that unequal power dynamic is not addressed first, most of the communication advice is actually going to harm and make things worse. Okay. And I also don't want you to think, oh my goodness, I need to leave. That's not what I'm saying. But you do need awareness of the truth and you need tools that are actually going to shift things for the better for everyone involved. So when we have super traits, we get stuck in over communication loops where we're over functioning, we're doing everything, we're asking a lot, we're telling them how we feel about things, and nothing changes. And nothing changes, or it changes for a time and then it slides back. That leads to resentment. Some of us go shut down and avoid, or it leads to explode. And generally, there's also some element of us getting sick in there, chronic migraines, weird rashes, something happening with our health. We go on repeat. The emotional labor and performance in and out of the bedroom. So we're generally overdoing the emotional labor with a partner who is underdoing it, who is not meeting our emotional needs. And maybe sometimes we're not even giving them the chance to because we are so stuck in doing and communicating our feelings instead of feeling our feelings. It doesn't feel safe to. We were praised for like being one of the guys growing up. We over communicate to feel safe, but we have never actually been taught what relational safety feels like. And we can't blame our partner or the relationship for that. That is work that we have to do on our own, in our own bodies. And in order to fully understand sex and intimacy, we also need to understand power and control and how power gets slowly eroded away from women, especially women with super traits, that we don't know what they are and we don't know how to protect them. We are actually the most vulnerable to this because we see ourselves as strong and powerful, and we have no idea that these hidden power dynamics exist in our relationship. I was one of those people. So are my clients. And most times when we can become aware of them, learn how to balance them, the relationship system heals. And it's like when you've been at the beach all day with your sunglasses on, and then you didn't realize they were dirty, you take them off and you're like, oh my God, I can see. That is what understanding super traits and power dynamics will do for you in your relationship. What I want you to know is communication without power is just noise. And if you're honest with yourself, that's what you're doing at home. Your communication is powerful at work, in your career. You say something, people hop to it. They listen, right? Because their job depends on it. But at home, it's the opposite. No one does shit for you. And how did it feel in your body when I said that? Probably not great. So you make an ask, it gets ignored. You soften, you rescript, you try it again, you get a crumb. The change that doesn't last. That's what you are experiencing at home. And oftentimes we're labeling it as a miscommunication when we really need to be calling it like it is. And this is that our partner is not meeting our needs, either because they can't or they won't. And we're caught in this communication loop. We focus on, oh, if I just overfunction in this way, or I say it in that way, or we play this card game, but we're blaming ourselves and we're putting the onus on ourselves to fix it. So we're using our super traits to do more over functioning. And we are centering the relationship around the under functioning partner instead of centering it around pleasure, which is beneficial for both parties. That's what I teach women to do. And this is the truth that most therapists miss. The coercive dynamics, even the subtle ones that make it unsafe to express vulnerability. So we burn out, we get sick, and we're even less connected from our self, our power, our desire. So the therapy, the Instagram accounts that are focused on communication without naming power imbalances in a relationship reinforces self-blame. This is not all therapy. I like therapy. I go to therapy. There are certain types of therapy that I find very beneficial for all of my clients, like EMDR, IFS, brain spotting. But these are also things that we are doing individually to work on and heal ourselves. My clients do not do well in couples therapy and sex therapy that does not address the power dynamics in the relationship, which, let's face it, 99% of therapy does not. If it doesn't address who is showing up and giving more, who has the super traits, then it is harmful. It actually doesn't fix anything. It makes it worse. It's harmful to my client because we are gaslighting the person that is doing it all. But let's talk about what actually works. So we've been taught to give, to please, predict, but not to ask, not to receive, not to express, not to take up space. So our energy is always out, taking the temperature of the room. We do not have the capacity for pleasure. And we see this in communication. So when our energy is always out, when our super traits are unchecked, the pleasure centers in our brain are turned off. We are in our lizard brain. We are in survival. We're in fight, flight, freeze, fawn. And we lose touch with that part of ourselves that makes us us with our desires. That's why my client is asked by her partner, like, well, where do you want to go for dinner? And she's like, I don't know. How do you like to be touched? She's like, I don't know, because her pleasure centers are off. Her nervous system doesn't have the capacity for pleasure, or it's very, very dampened. It's the dial that's turned way down. So if she can't rest, if she can't relax for 10 minutes without thinking about the next thing or scrolling her phone, how can she hold space for these intimate conversations? So oftentimes when we do the work and she does get in touch with those desires and the asks, and she's cleaned up her side of the street, like she even feels uncomfortable to say what she really needs because she can't tolerate any more in her nervous system. She doesn't have the capacity. So we can't out-communicate a lack of safety in our nervous systems. A superwoman with super traits and invisible power dynamics equals over responsibility for emotional labor, feeling like the CEO, the mom in the relationship. Do you think she wants to dirty talk you? No. There's resentment, there's obligation, there's shame, and we need to heal this internally first. What actually works for superwomen with super traits? Power dynamic conscious communication, desire-based communication versus performing niceness, walking on eggshells, emotional caretaking for his feelings, because that's not intimacy. We're not sharing our heart and our desires and our needs with our partner when we're asking them for a little piece of the pie because our nervous system couldn't tolerate a no. We need clean asks. We need energetic boundaries. We need matching effort. We need healing our nervous systems to tolerate some emotional uncomfortability. I'm teaching learning to receive as a safety practice. So there's internal work that we have to do first if we even want to start speaking the words. And sometimes speaking the words is too hard for our nervous systems. We need to text it first. Your nervous system can't deal with the uncomfortability, so it is easier to do it yourself. And we have this deep pattern playing out where we have a need, we don't think it will be met, so We either do it ourselves or we ask for a little piece of it that feels safe to ask for, but it's energetically sticky and our need doesn't get met, or they meet that little need, but we're still not happy. And we can't explain why we're still not happy because they did what we asked them to do, but we didn't ask them for the whole thing. And then they go, see, you're never happy. This is why I don't do anything for you. So it's just this gross pattern and this confirmation bias playing out that our needs will not be met. If this episode resonated with you, you don't need better scripts. You need a better framework. These are the tools that I teach in my 12-week group coaching program. So if this all feels uncomfortably true, if you've tried the tips, had the conversations, read the books, done the therapy, and you're still in a relationship where nothing changes, it's not because you're broken. It's because you've been playing a game that is rigged against your super traits. You get praised for them in career, and they negatively impact intimacy. Communication does not fix power dynamics. Safety doesn't come from communication frameworks and I statements. It comes from learning about your super traits and having a nervous system that has capacity for pleasure. And we need to do both. Intimacy doesn't grow in a relationship where you are begging for your needs to be met, where you are subtly giving your power away and you've had your sense of self eroded because you're hardworking, because you're loyal, because you're open, because you're flexible. These things are amazing. You deserve a pleasure-centered relationship. It's not about learning better scripts. It's about reclaiming power. And that is why I created the Pleasure Principles group coaching program, a 12-week container where we dismantle the overfunctioning super trait loop that's draining your desire. We rebuild your capacity for turn on, truth telling, receiving. We teach power conscious communication, and this requires you to have a nervous system that is safe with high sensation. So you're no longer spinning in the emotional labor or getting gaslit because they gave you a drop or threw you a crumb. You will not get what you need by trying harder. You will not get what you need by leaning on your super traits. You need a new framework, one that understands who you fundamentally are, your trauma, your power, and your pleasure. Most importantly, you need to stop doing this alone. We heal when we can co-regulate. We heal 4 times faster with pleasure and joy. The summer cohort starts June 25th. There's only 3 spots left at the time that I'm recording this. This is your moment. This is your moment to get your super traits to work for you in the bedroom, not just out. Before the numbness becomes permanent, before the resentment hardens into regret, before somebody's cheated or there is a divorce, you can fix this. You just need the right tools. Head to the show notes and claim your spot now.